What I like to tell men in my class is that what you want to do is not anything's better than zero. Correct? I mean, zero. I don't care if it's $5, $10, $9.25, or whatever it is. Anything is better than zero. So what you want to do is just get time on your resume, right? When you look at a resume, it's not telling me how much you made. It's telling me how long you've been at a job,
True.
right? And so 6 months minimum. I don't care if, I always tell them, hey, if they pay me to stand in a corner at $9.25 an hour for 6 months, I will do that to get 6 months on a resume, right? Because now I can say that I've been at a particular position for 6 months, right? A year, even better. So I think the greatest challenge is keeping a job, not necessarily getting a job. Minimal 6 months, bear it out, do what you got to do to stay at that job. That will pay dividends much longer in the future. A year or even two on your resume as you get out, that's gold. That'll go a long way.
You said something very important because when I did resume training or resume writing with a senior program I used to run at Chia, a lot of those men in that program didn't have traditional jobs where they got paid as far as the W-2. They had a lot of skill sets. Well, put it this way, they had a lot of jobs where they were paid under the table. So once I talked to them and I got that information out of them, they don't understand transferable skills. Even though they may not have gotten paid legally, shall I say, for the things that they did, but yet they still had the skill sets that we were able to write down on their resume that they at least had that experience.
Correct.
But opposed to stating that from this organization, I did this and did that, like a traditional resume, we would put it up under additional experience or other experience. And we will put that down there. So that's good to know that if you've been incarcerated for numerous years, that you have been doing something for the period of time you've been incarcerated. And therefore, you can utilize those talents or those skill sets that you learned or you've been doing for a period of time and put it on a resume.
Yes.
Because I'm sure some individuals didn't know that because most people are thinking, well, I didn't work for so many years, so therefore I didn't do anything. But you have been doing something, so therefore it needs to be documented or written down on the resume. That's pretty good.
That is correct. And another way to look at it too, Marseille, is that when you let's just say you were in kitchen for 4 years here, and then there was another time where you were not in the kitchen and you were back in the kitchen again, and a total of that, let's say, is 8 years. Okay, so I would put 8 years on the resume that you're in the kitchen. Okay, you don't have to have a start and end. Just put, you have facility in the kitchen and you know how to work your way around, a kitchen area. 8 years. Whether it be janitorial or whatever, group those years and put those in there at that point. It necessarily doesn't have to have all these start, end, start, end, start, ends where your resume becomes long. Group those when you first come out and put those in a year time frame. It's a nice way to do it.
Since you said that, what about the gaps in employment? So if you're, like we're talking about, you've been incarcerated and you're doing your resume, and if you show, how do you do that? That's where I'm kind of lost. If you document something, but you're saying that put the dates, but are you showing a gap in employment somewhere or no?
No, you wouldn't show a gap if you don't put the date. So what would happen is you would put years, like say, kitchen area,
Got
whatever, 8 years. You would put landscaping 2 years, and so this would read in years necessarily in time.
And
so
not the actual dates.
you got it. So we're grouping together your skills within that particular heading, and whether you're on and off 4 times in there, you've grouped all those years together. It's a nice, easy way to make your resume read well, so you can start building up long-term start and end dates, which gets me back to start here, go 1 year, then put that on the resume. Now we can utilize time on the water with the exact dates.
That's very good information. I know something that's being talked about in Michigan news. If those who listen, if our listeners listen to Michigan news or NPR news, they've been talking about the felony question on a resume is going to be taken off, or not on the resume, on the application, if Michigan is going to be one of the states where it is no longer on our applications, do you know anything about there? Is there any new information about that being removed, or if it's going to continue to be on our applications?
Yeah, that's the ban the box.
Okay.
That a lot. There's a lot of different ways you can go in that. Okay, and there's a lot of laws back and forth on that, right? So for starters, Genesee County, back on June 1 of 14, for county employees, voted to ban the box on their applications for any city employee or county employee, let's call it that. And so what that does, ban the box, is that it's not on the application. And what that does is it gives this particular person the avenue in which to get the interview and then be asked the questions of the felony and whatnot later in the interview, so that they would get a chance to at least get face to face instead of decided right there on an application because it's checked that you're a felon, right? So that's hence the name ban the box, right? But since then, on just of March of this year in 18, Governor Rick Snyder signed Senate Bill 0353 is what I see here. And what that does is that kind of changed a little bit, because what he said is that counties and other areas can't regulate to the private sector to make them ban the box, all right? So it allows the private sector to decide, yeah, I want that question on my resume for my business versus not, okay? So there's pros and cons both ways on that. But the way I look at it at this, and this will go back and forth, and this ban the box, it narrows itself down, right? But the biggest thing here is that if you see a question on a resume that says, have you been convicted of a felony? And that's the question. Well, then your answer is either yes or no. You tell the truth. It's either yes or no, right? Now, if it says, have you been convicted of a felony in the last blank years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 10 years, that question becomes, when were you convicted? Okay, so let's say it says, have you had a felony in the last 5 years, and you were convicted of a felony in 7 years, that answer would be no on that box, right? So you would check no on that box, right? So banning the box is just trying to do away with that a little bit, is what's going to happen. But the way I look at it is this, and all this can go back and forth, and I agree that businesses can look at banning the box, or is this on the box, or is your felony question on the box or not, on an application. In the end, it boils down to an employer wanting to hire an ex-offender.
That is true.
And so that company, and I salute the companies that are out there doing that in Genesee County, and they're becoming more and more, and there's just a vast array of them that are really starting to take the step. So whether that question is on their application or not does not matter, because they're going to at least bring you in, know that you have a felony whether you check that or not, because they're open to hiring in general those with a record, right? Those are the gold ones right there. So all of this can go back and forth. Just understand that, there's companies out there. Those are the ones that we support. Those are the ones that I like to, really kind of say, what, you're the leaders in this, because doesn't matter what happens here on the state side and legal side, you're bringing somebody in that you're willing to give a second chance to. That's as good as it gets for us.
That's true. You know what, Al? I wrote a grant last year, and I didn't know certain things when it came to prisoner reentry.
Okay.
I've been around some programs that offer certain types of programs for prisoner, we call them, well, now they call them returning home citizens. So I want to call them now returning home citizens. And I collaborated with Reconnections in order to write this grant. And what I come to find out is just right here in the state of Michigan, 500 ex-offenders, is that what I want to say, are released from Michigan prison systems every single year, 500.
Wow.
With the majority of them coming into the Genesee County.
Right.
And from that percentage, a large population of them are coming here to the city of Flint. So when we look at the issues we already have in Flint, and now we have returning citizens that are coming home, we need to be able to offer some good programs and services that will help individuals so they won't return and go back to prison, and it will decrease crime or some of the things that go on in some of our neighborhoods in the city of Flint.
Yeah.
So we were very blessed to receive the grant. We'd like to thank Community Foundation for funding us, where we have a partnership with Reconnections, and we offer the educational component for the men who are in his skills training program. So we do know that a lot of the men who have been incarcerated, who have returned home, some will have high school diplomas and GEDs, and some will not. I also come to learn that for some of the men who have been incarcerated, there was a time in certain programs, well, I shouldn't say in certain programs, certain prisons, they were allowed to be not just educated as far as a high school diploma or a GED, they were also able to get post-secondary degrees, so they were able to get associate's degrees.
Right.
But something happened over the years where they cut it out. And they said we would no longer offer financial aid to anyone who had been incarcerated.
Wow.
So I think it was about between 2013 or 2015, President Obama reinstated it.
Okay.
Whereas men who was incarcerated, they can get a post-secondary degree.
Good.
And that's very good because once you've been away for so long and you really don't know what's going on, but you have that degree when you come out, that at least give you a head start from someone who doesn't have a degree. Because again, like I've been stating, is that a lot of residents in Genesee County who have not graduated from high school are functioning between the 0th and 4th grade in reading and math. And we still have some that did graduate from high school, honestly, that are still at that 0th through 4th grade. But to know that you've been incarcerated for 20, 30 years,
right,
and you come out with a degree,
wow.
You know, you're coming out a little further ahead than some of the people who did not do what they needed to do during the time period they weren't incarcerated.
So that's kind of like a good thing than being something bad for them, right?
You know what? One thing I come to find when I meet, talk to certain men, because I've met 2 of the men in Dennis' group.
Okay.
Outstanding. Both of them. Outstanding. Both of them had associate's degree. One was a paraprofessional in the prison system, and I'm not sure what the other one's degree was.
I think it was in business.
It was in business, and he served 43 years. I think, 43 years in there, and then the other one served 32 years in prison, and they both have associate's degree.
Okay.
And they're both working right now.
Good stuff.
When I did some testing with these men, I mean, they tested off the scales. I went to go ask them, who are these men? Because I've never seen people who haven't been in high school testing out of high school, at such a high level.
Right.
And so when Dennis told me who they were, and I met these men, I'm like, wow. I heard there were some smart men in prison. I said, but you 2 guys are intelligent. They had associate's degrees.
Okay.
And so they have both volunteered for me over at our Adult Learning Center. One has been my math tutor for the GED level, which is 9th, 12th grade level. Okay. And one has done some administrative work for me. So they came to give back after being incarcerated. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, really, really can.
They came and gave back from the skills that they learned while they were incarcerated. So for those, I talked to some POs today to make sure they listen to the show and everything. So for those, they probably can't listen to us, hear us right now. But if you're there and you're incarcerated, like Dennis said, get those skill sets. Right. Get those skill sets because it puts you a little further ahead in the job line. Because one of them I'm planning on hiring. I'm going to be one of those employers who's going to hire a returning home citizen because Michigan Works has a program for employers. Okay. If you hire a returning home citizen, they will help you with their wages for a period of time.
Really?
So for me to already have experience with one of the gentlemen as a volunteer, to know that I have a position that's open to know that there are state funds or federal funds that will help me to hire him, it has been a win-win situation all the way around for us. So I'm thankful for meeting Dennis. I'm thankful for meeting the man that's going to be joining us, and I'm very grateful for Michigan Works for their program.
Fantastic.
Very much so.
Yeah, and there, on that note, there's 2 points I want to make on there. One is you can self-educate yourself no matter where you
That's
are,
true.
right? And it doesn't need to be a course curriculum or something, whether the state offers it on the, inside or not. There are books, right? And there are millions and millions of books, right? And they're rolled down aisles and handed out left and right all the time, right? The question is, can you read? Will you read? And how much will you read,
That's
right?
true.
And so, I encourage men, hey, read 15 minutes a day. Take the other 23 hours and 45 minutes, you can do whatever you want. If you read 15 minutes a day of something of quality substance, that's a book a month, that's 12 books a year.
That's true.
And if you read that through the course of 5 years and 10 years, you will be so much farther ahead in self-education. And I'm talking books of anything that interests you, of quality, right? Travel and, mechanics and whatever it is. And these 2 gentlemen you meet, I guarantee you they've read books on the inside, way on top of everything else they've learned. They continue to read. They're always constantly learning. They're self-educating themselves, and it's only a wonder when they come out, they're so far ahead of even the general public, right? So really, it's not a matter of, yes, I have a felony. It's a question of, are you reading enough to outrun the average person?
That is true.
What you're doing. And the excuse can never be, well, I if I can't read, then learn to read, okay? There's many programs that do that. Start. If you read 2nd grade, fess up that you read 2nd grade and start reading 2nd grade. Then you'll go to 3rd. Then you'll go to 4th. There's nothing wrong about that. I think the shame is not reading, right?
Right.
You're no better off than somebody who doesn't read at that point, right? So you can outrun that. You can gain that, right? And again, books the substance, getting around, reading yourself to education just on a wide variety of subjects, and you'll blow your mind where you'll be 5-10 years from now.
By far. With Dennis saying that, I would like to invite listeners or listeners who know of anyone who do not have a high school diploma or a GED to join us, Chia Adult Skill Center at Burston Fieldhouse on Tuesday. I think it is June 26th at 10 a.m. at Burston Fieldhouse, where we will be discussing the information for you to be able to attend our Adult Learning Center. Our Adult Learning Center, which is called Chia Adult Skill Center, is for adults over the age of 25, and we're able to offer free academic training for adults who live in 48504, 48505, and 48506 zip codes. But you have to come to the information session. If there's a reason why you cannot attend, please give us a call at 810-553-2140. Dennis, I have a question for you. So let's say I do have a felony on my record, and I go for an interview, and it just happens not to be on my resume, on the application, if I had a felony or not. Do I volunteer that information in the interview before they do a background check on me?
That's a great question. And myself, I would definitely do that. I call what I call the 3-point answer. All right. And what that is you want to let them know that you do have a felony on record. They're going to find out sooner or later. So the quicker that you can say it before them finding out, the better it is, right? But what a lot of times what I find is that it's a storyline. You'll have a person get up and they'll be like, well, can you tell me a little bit about your felony? And they'll go on and on. Well, this, that, my mother, the dog, this, my baby mama, in this, and then he did this and he shot me, and then, and it's this story, and it's like the interviewer is like, you got to be kidding, right?
Yeah.
So what I say is keep it short, get to the point. Yes, I had a felony on record. Yes, I learned from my lesson that I was in. I was incarcerated 24 years, and I'm moving on. But since then, point 2 is bore me with what you're doing.
Right.
Ramble off. There's where I want you to talk as much as what you're doing. For instance, yes, I have a felony on record. I've been in prison for 24 years. I learned my lesson. But since that, I have been boom, 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 boom. I'm here. I'm doing this. I'm learning this. Hey, and by the way, I'm reading this book. great thing to say. I'm doing, here's where I'm going, here's what I want to do next, doing, right? And then the last point, ask for the job. I'll be a great employee for you if given the chance. I'm looking forward to being an employee here. When can I start? Reach out your hand. Ask for the job. Most people don't. They'll get up on the interview, they'll walk out, and they'll never ask for the job. It just astounds me how many times they've never asked me back in the day when I was doing interviews, not for the job. It's crazy, right? So 3 points. 1, short and sweet. Yes, I have a felony. Fess up to that. You don't have to go into what it is unless you want to. You could say, yeah, it was robbery, and I served 24. But you don't need to go into all the other details on that.
Right.
Since then, I have been, boom. Tell me with what you're doing. That's what they really want to hear.
Right.
And I'd be a great fit for you if given the opportunity. You won't regret what you do. Now you better back up those words, and you better put your head down and work
That
those
is
6
true.
months and 1 year because that's your word. But there you go, 3-point answer. Remember that, and I think you'll do well when you ask that when they ask you that question.
So you're saying for them to take control of the conversation, answer it, but still take control of it by you saying how you've changed since then,
Yep.
and what assets or what skill sets you can bring to an organization in order to benefit that organization.
That's right. You got that opportunity right there. So when they ask you about the felony, even though you're adding more, you're adding positive to it, right? And they're going to want to hear that. And even if you got to repeat that 3-point again, they ask you some other avenue, do the same 3-point again, because really what you're doing is saying what you can bring to them for the company, right? And I think if you keep that in check like that, keep yourself from, they're going to know all about you. They're going to do the background. They're going to get all that anyway. But you just want to tell the truth. Always tell the truth. Yes, this is it. This is what I've done. I've learned my lesson. I'm moving on and move yourself on.
Callers, if you have any questions for us based on this topic, please give us a call at 810-239-5733. The number again is 810-239-5733. I know next month legal services is going to be here. And one of the questions that a lot of people seem to ask is about expungement. If I know, well, I'm going to say I don't know. I'm going to say I don't know. I have an idea, but I'm going to say I don't know. If you have something expunged from your record, can it still be pulled up during a background check? Let's say if it's 10 years old.
Okay, that's another good question, right? And this is a great way in what I found what it says. Expungement or record sealing is a process of requesting that the courts and or law enforcement agencies modify, seal, or destroy your criminal records. The definitions, benefits, and requirements of expungement or record sealing, they vary by the state, right? In many instances, when a record is expunged or sealed, it cannot be viewed by the public, and the applicant no longer has to disclose any past criminal activity. So, according to this, and what I found in the past, most of that is sealed. I've never had any cases to date that I've seen where it has been, but I'm sure there's always a flaw somewhere. But in general, that is expunged. That's off that record and cannot be seen at that point, no matter the distance, right?
And,
Now, on that note, Marcy, there's other websites, third-party websites that do post your history all the time. Although this will be off state records and national records possibly, it will not be expunged off of other records. Now, with that in mind, there are things that cannot be expunged, right?
Okay.
So there's stuff that definitely they won't, and that's a felony to attempt or commit a felony, child abuse in the second degree, criminal sexual in various degrees, assault with the intent to commit criminal sexual, fourth degree, criminal sexual, traffic offenses, including operating a vehicle while intoxicated. That cannot be expunged, right? So, and there's a list of them. You can go to the website and read them all. They constantly, again, they're changing and adding more so that they can be expunged. There was just recently, they've added more that can be expunged. So that's constantly changing all the time. My advice is absolutely go see as they hold these expungement events.
That's
Get
what I was gonna
there,
say.
Eastern, be a part of that. See what can be expunged. You may even get some of, let's say you've got a laundry list. of offenses, you may be able to get some of that laundry washed off, which then will keep your record. There's avenues to do that, right? So depending on how many you have in various things, you can read up on all that online and find it right to your specific case.
Okay. So Dennis, up under Reconnections, I'm abreast of all the things that you do with the men in Reconnections, but since we're talking about jobs and employment, what type of job assistance do you provide for the men that's enrolled in your program?
Okay, great question. We do resume creation is what we do. We'll assist with that. Interview training. We do work attire. We get these guys dressed up. Many of these men don't know how to tie a tie for the first time. We teach them how to tie a tie. There is nothing better, Marseille, than a gentleman, 45, 50 years old, that's never tied a tie, and he puts on that suit and. Man,
you gotta put on the cologne.
That is.
But not too much.
That is the day right there. Right. That's the day right there for them. We train them in financial banking and financial aspects. Biggest thing: character, relationship building, integrity. We like to connect them to different schooling or college options. We connect them to employment. We connect them with a life coach. At the end of graduation, when they graduate the schooling part, we match them with a life coach for 6 months. They get a gentleman that comes alongside of them to kind of help them along life. And again, we're just one of many organizations that do this. We just do the high risk offenders. We have a certain niche, but there are many great organizations out there. The MAID organization out here, Strive, the Chamber of Commerce with their Career Edge is a fantastic program. Michigan Works, as you well mentioned, everything's available there in different layers and different floors. Workforce development, CHIA, of course, obviously what you guys are doing, and there's a host of others, but these are the players in the field that assist ex-offenders coming back in great ways and really making headway, collaborating together and doing some great things. And if you're an ex-offender coming back into here or know somebody soon coming back in here, know that you got a lot of great options that weren't available even a few years ago with some of these organizations.
Okay, well, Dennis, I want to thank you so very much for you being here. One
You're
quick
very
word,
welcome.
if they need to get in touch with you, give us a quick phone number.
Yeah, 248-207-8125. 248-207-8125. You can reach me anytime.
Listeners, I thank you so much for listening to me tonight. Look forward to hearing from you next week. Bye-bye.